I need to tell you something that's been eating at me for months now, and I think a lot of you guys are going to relate to this. I'm 24 years old. I make $125,000 as a software engineer in New York City. And before you click away thinking this is some humble brag from a privileged tech bro, just hear me out for a second, because what I'm about to share is going to make you realize how broken things actually are. I worked minimum wage and retail jobs for 10 years to pay my way through community college and university. I graduated with zero debt, zero student loans. I did everything right. Studied computer science, learned to code, got the good job everyone talks about. On paper, I won. I'm living the dream that guidance counselors sell to high school students. But here's what nobody tells you about that dream. My take-home pay after taxes is $79,000 per year. And my girlfriend, she graduated into one of the worst job markets for new graduates in decades. Tech layoffs, they're everywhere. Hiring freezes, company replacing entry-level positions with AI, or the offshoring of entry-level jobs. She's been grinding out hundreds of applications, rewriting her resume over and over, working minimum wage jobs while she waits for something, literally anything in her field to open up. So I'm kind of supporting both of us on that $79,000. In one of the most expensive cities in America. We live with 2 other roommates just to make the math even work. Just think about that for a second. Someone in my position doing everything society told me to do, making what most people would consider really good money, is barely just staying ahead. We're sharing a place with roommates. We're not going on fancy vacations. We're not buying new cars or thinking about buying property even. We're just surviving. Comfortably, sure, but surviving is nonetheless the word for it. If someone in my position is barely keeping ahead, then the traditional American path isn't just hard anymore, it's fundamentally broken for most people my age. But here's what I realized over the years, and this is why I'm making this video. We don't have to keep playing that game that rigged us. We can change the game entirely, and Gen Z might be the first generation positioned to actually do it. Now I know what you're thinking, another video saying work harder or start a side hustle or whatever, but that's not what I'm talking about. This is looking at the actual numbers, understanding what we're actually facing, and making strategic decisions based on reality instead of the stories we've been told about how life is supposed to work. So let me just walk you through what's actually happening to our generation, and then I'll show you the alternative path that I'm personally taking. Here are just the plain numbers and a real plan. And it's kind of why the job market isn't just being tough right now, it's actually systematically broken. Let's start with my girlfriend's experience because her story is way more common than mine right now. She did everything right, got the degree, built the resume, developed the skills, but she graduated right as companies started massive layoffs, right as hiring freezes hit, right as AI started eating at entry-level positions that used to be stepping stones into mid-level careers. Hundreds of applications sent out, constant resume tweaking, rejection after rejection, or even worse, just silence. She's working jobs she's well overqualified for just to pay the bills while she keeps applying, keeps hoping, and keeps grinding. And here's the thing that keeps me angry. This isn't her fault. This isn't a personal failing. This is what happens when an entire generation graduates into a fundamentally changed economy. And there's actual research on this. Graduating into a weak job market creates what economists call a wage penalty that can last to 10 to 15 years. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in lifetime earnings just lost just because you happen to graduate in 2025 instead of 2018 or 2019 or even 2020. You're not starting from the same place as people who just a few years before you started from. You're starting well behind them. And that gap actually never fully closes in your lifetime. See, even the National Bureau of Economic Research covers this. The long-term effects of graduating in a recession or recession-like environment has earning losses that eventually do fade, but it takes 8 to 10 years to even just catch up earning-wise with peers that graduated a little bit before you. And again, that gap is still there your entire life. That gap never actually fully closes. See, my girlfriend is living proof of this. She's smart, she's capable, she's willing to work hard, but just because of timing, she's paying for it. And she's not alone. This is the norm for Gen Z graduates right now. Now, I'm not going to be doom and gloom because there is some good things that came out of this. It's forcing us to develop skills that traditional stable employment never actually teaches. It teaches you income diversification, adaptability, self-reliance, learning to create value outside of traditional job structures. These are exactly the skills you need when you're building towards something completely different, when you're planning an exit strategy instead of a traditional path. The job market being terrible is actually training us for independence, even though that's not what it really intends. And I'm not saying it's actually actually good. I'm saying we can still extract value from a bad situation. And let's talk about college for a second, because this is where the broken system really becomes obvious. College tuition has increased 180% since the early 2000s. And you want to know how much entry-level salaries have increased in the same time? When you adjust for inflation. So yes, when you adjust for inflation, it's actually a grand total of nothing. It has been completely flat adjusted for inflation. And you may be like, oh, I was earning this amount of money back then, and now I'm earning this. That is because you were looking at the nominal change and not the real change in salaries. In addition, you also have to remember you probably bought a house in that time, meaning your cost of living has actually barely increased compared to somebody just graduating, just trying to buy a house. Let that sink in. Education costs way more and basically gets you the same earning power as it did 25 years ago with more student loan debt. Actually, on average, it's about $37,000. And it's not uncommon to see people owing over $100,000 or more in student loans. So yeah, you're paying for the same degree that gets you the same job, except now you're starting tens of thousands of dollars in debt before even earning your first paycheck. And your first paycheck is actually less than what it would have been 25 years ago in terms of inflation. That is objectively the worst and most terrible ROI I've ever heard of. Like, if this was any other investment, everyone would recognize it and be like, that's a scam. Now, there are ways to avoid this trap. You can go to community college, work through school, but most people my age get sold a different story. They go to a good school, get a degree, just a degree because it's the same, and say the job will come. You'll eventually pay that debt off, but except eventually now means a decade or more of payments, and the jobs now aren't even there. And even when they are there, the salaries haven't kept up with the pace of that debt. This is forcing Gen Z to think more critically about education ROI. More people are questioning whether a $200,000 degree or even a $100,000 degree even makes sense anymore, when it leads to the same job, or the same pay at least, as a trade school certification. So now we're routing around the traditional system because we have to. The system is broken, but we're learning to see the alternatives. And that skill, being able to question the system and find alternative paths, that is going to serve us really well. But it doesn't just stop there, because here's something I fully didn't understand until more recently. The American healthcare system isn't designed to keep you healthy, it's designed to keep you employed, actually. The average annual health insurance premium through an employer is now $8,435 for just single coverage. And if you want to cover your family, it's now around $24,000. And that's just the premium. There's also the deductible, which is around $1,700 to $1,800 before insurance even kicks in and starts paying for anything. Medical debt is causing 60% of bankruptcies in the United States. It's the leading cause of bankruptcies in the wealthiest country in the world. And we are actually statistically more unhealthy than we were just decades ago. This is creating an entrapment. And I don't think how people realize how insidious this is. You need employer-sponsored insurance, which means you're locked into jobs even when they're terrible, even when you're miserable, even when you're being underpaid or mistreated, because leaving means paying $500 to $800 a month for marketplace coverage with worse deductibles, or gambling with your health entirely. A lot of people can't take those risks. I can't take those risks. I have Crohn's disease. So if I were to leave my job and have no insurance, I'd be screwed. My medication costs $12,000 a month just to manage my symptoms. Now, thankfully, I have good insurance right now to where I don't have to pay that $12,000 a month, but that's how much it costs. People can't take those risks. You can't try starting your own business. You can't take time off to figure out what you actually want to do with your life because you need health insurance. And the only affordable way to get there is to just stay employed. Or obviously, if you're under 26, you can stay under parents, but that's costing them even more money. This isn't just some flawed in a broken system. No, it's entrapment. And again, I'm not just trying to complain. I genuinely want people to see this, because once you notice the handcuffs, you start looking for a way out of them. And eventually we'll find that key. And again, it doesn't just stop there. Kids, our population is declining in the United States because having a child is becoming a luxury good nowadays. My girlfriend and I talked about whether we want kids someday. And the honest answer is I genuinely never wanted them, but she did. And I looked into the cost of them, and it can go up to $30,000 per year per child. And if you want two kids, you're paying around $60,000 annually in after-tax dollars just for childcare. For many families, one parent has to go to work and the other one has to leave the workforce because their entire salary would just go to childcare costs. But that's not the reality. Both parents are working, both parents are paying for those child costs. And because of that, it's leading to a lot of neglectment. We're having kids being raised by TikTok and iPads, and they're being brain rotted. They are being robbed of their childhood through screens. Parents are being robbed of raising their kids and their child's life because they have to work through their entire childhood just to support them. In the United States, we offer 0 weeks of mandatory paid parental leave. 0. In the UK, it's 38 weeks. In Japan, it's 32. In Canada, it's 58. We're the only developed country in the entire world that doesn't guarantee any paid leave for a new parent. And that's causing Gen Z to delay having kids or choosing not to have them at all. And just given these circumstances, I'm just sick even just looking at it. We're being told to have families while being given an economic system that makes having a family unaffordable. I've even seen a growing trend of many people wanting to leave the United States just to raise a child somewhere else, like countries like Portugal, Spain, or even most of Europe. They've solved the problem that the US refuses to even acknowledge.